Hi, everyone. My name is Luis Villa. I'm part of the team at Latino Outdoors, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this panel today on kinship and connection in the outdoors. This is part of our annual celebration known as Semillitas Outdoors, Little Seeds Outdoors. It's a springtime celebration of children in the outdoors. And here at Latino Outdoors, we want to celebrate children, their familias, and everyone who loves and cares for the outdoors. Latino Outdoors is a community, a national community that's powered by volunteers all around the country, over 200 volunteers that are leading outdoor experiences for local communities. And we focus on three things at Latino Outdoors. It's outdoor engagement, right? So outings, going hiking, camping, in community, bike riding, anything, you name it. Telling our stories of connection to the outdoors and really expanding that narrative around what it means to love and care for the outdoors, so that it's much more representative of the diversity of people who are outdoorsy. And three, building leadership in the outdoors. Really expanding the community of people who are committed to environmental education, to outdoor recreation, and to conservation. So these are our three programmatic pillars, and within that, we have projects and initiatives like Semillitas, Little Seeds Outdoors. So welcome to Semillitas Outdoors Week. This is the fourth edition of Semillitas Outdoors Week, and we're celebrating it from April 26th through May the 4th. Today, for today's panel, I'd like to welcome a couple low leaders, Latino Outdoors volunteers that are joining us from different parts of the country. So first, I'd like to welcome Liz Delgado, who's joining us from Chicago.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Liz. Nice to see you. And then I'd also like to welcome Josué Coronado, who's joining us today from Houston, Texas.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Happy to be here.
Thank you, Josué, for joining us. So, as I mentioned, we're celebrating Semillitas Outdoors, the fourth annual edition of this. And today's panel is about kinship and connection to the outdoors. It's a topic that has been on my mind quite a bit, not just, in the last few days, but in the last several months and maybe even couple years. I'd like to start actually by reading something that the former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy wrote about a loneliness epidemic in our country. After he took office in 2014, he went across the country on a public listening tour. And what he discovered was that, he says, I heard stories from my fellow Americans that surprised me. People began to tell me that they felt isolated, invisible, and insignificant. Even when they couldn't put their finger on the word lonely, time and time again, people of all ages and socioeconomic backgrounds from every corner of the country would tell me I have to shoulder all of life's burdens by myself. So I knew about this, and I've been paying attention to the discourse around this for some time now. And that's why I'm so, I think it's so important to underscore the importance of connecting in real life, IRL, right? And at Latino Outdoors, one of the main reasons that volunteers and staff and other members of our community give for being a part of Latino Outdoors is, and I just said the word, community, comunidad, and particularly being in community outdoors in real life. So that is something that I think is so important in this day and age where there's so much, our lives have become so asynchronous, right? We curate our lives through screens, through streaming, on TV. There are fewer and fewer touch points, social touch points where we're doing things together, right? Everybody's kind of in a silo. So that is why it's so important to really emphasize the importance of real life connections. And I'm just so proud that I'm part of an organization, part of a community, together with you both and so many other leaders around the country, Latino outdoors leaders, that do just that. So, with that context, let's talk about kinship and connection IRL in real life, and why that's important to model for our kids and semillitas. First of all, let's give you both a chance to introduce yourselves. Liz, why don't we start with you? Whatever you'd like to share, your name, your pronouns, where you're calling in from. I think I that's a spoiler, right? I already said that, but feel free to share whatever you'd like.
Hi, yes. I'm Liz, pronouns she, her, ella. Yes, I'm in Chicago in the native lands of Ojibwe, Odawa, Parawami, as well as Ho-Chunk. So I'm first generation Latina here in the U.S. My family is from Jalisco, Mexico. I'm a dog mom of a 12-year-old Cavalier and a 7-year-old Chihuahua Terrier, and a proud tia of 6 nephew and nieces. So the oldest is 22, and then the youngest is 2 months old.
Mm.
So I'm pretty much like always out in nature with my dogs and my nephew and nieces. Yeah, it's just enjoying the outdoors, going on hikes, traveling, biking. Yeah, so I just like enjoy, yeah, being with my family, being with my dogs outside. So that's a little bit about me. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Liz. My family's from Jalisco too, my parents. So there you go. And I'm also a proud tío to several sobrinas and sobrinos. Josué, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, happy to be here today. My name is Josué Coronado. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am calling in from Houston, Texas, in the native lands of the Atacapa Ishak, the Karankawas, the Kuailtekens, and the Akukisa, which is a subgroup of the Atacapa who lived along the Gulf Coast. A couple of things that really, I guess, some identifiers. My family's from San Luis Potosí and from Nuevo León, and so I've gotten to visit Matehuala a couple of times when I'm out on the ranch, and it is always beautiful to take a look at the mountains and be surrounded by this kind of desert landscape. And I think something that I really remember from my time when I visited about 2 years ago was in a landscape that seemingly like very little survives or thrives, rather, right? Because it's a very desertic landscape. How incredible that for centuries people have been able to live off that land, my family included, and even to this day. So that was something that was just like really beautiful, that grounded me in my identity, and that like no matter where we go, we'll make do with what we have, and we'll create a thriving community from it. I think in one sentence, the cool thing that I do in this space is that I think in LO Houston, I'm known as the plant guy. I love to garden. My dad is a landscaper. His dad is a landscaper. And so I think just kind of seeing that growing up was not something, something I always thought was cool, but not really taking an interest in until actually during the pandemic when I was trying to find more community, find more purpose, started planting outside, and found that the gardening community was very loving, and I just always want to pour into other people and nurture them. And so I took a deep interest in gardening, and so now anytime anybody has any plant issues or they're trying to grow tomatoes or bell peppers or what have you, they call me up, and then they try to figure out how they can best do so. So that's kind of a lot of the programming that I've done with Latino Outdoors Houston and with Semillitas has actually been through gardening.
That's fantastic, Jose. It is springtime, and it's time to do a lot of pruning, a lot of trimming of plants. I've been really learning. I have a native plant garden where I live, and I've just been learning about each plant's requirements and when is a good time to prune and trim these plants during the year. And a lot of them are in the spring. So I've been busy.
Yes, you and I both.
I bet. So I mentioned community as one of the big reasons that Latino Outdoors volunteers, leaders cite for being a part of this organization. And I wanted to ask you both, what does that concept, that term mean to you? Why don't we start with you, Liz?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what does community mean to me? I think just community means like connection, being able to have the support. When I think of community, I think of just kind of like a security blanket of where there's this like sense of belonging. I know that I'm like safe, and I know that like where I'm at, and I think it's just like a beautiful thing where like I can be myself and I can connect with others. And so, yeah, I think, with the pandemic, like we became very isolated. And so, when things started to clear up, that's kind of like where I found Latino Outdoors. Um, and when I went in to, all these events, I just connected with people, right? And so there's this, it can be just like one thing, like, and we can connect and build like wonderful connections and relationships. And even if it's not like a continued relationship, we can have a very like impactful moment, just like with one interaction. And so, yeah, I think I can say a lot more about just like what does community mean to me, but I think I'll just end here. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have an opportunity. So thank you for that, Liz. And by the way, just from following from afar, right, the programming, the outings that you organize together with your fellow volunteers there in Chicago, it really is about community there. Just the turnouts to your outings, and then you also focus. You tie community with health as well,
Mhm.
right? And both mental and physical health, and it's wonderful to see.
Mhm.
Josué, community,
Yeah.
comunidad. What does that mean to you? For you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think when I think about community, I think about two things, tangible and intangible. I think the tangible things are the action items. It's bringing people in, it's having a shared understanding of language and of culture, of food, right? And so there's the things where like you can create community by providing these tangible items. And then there's that sense of familiarity. And I think the intangible one I think is more impactful, and they're both important, but I think it's the one that people leave a room feeling, and that's that sense of being understood. It's that sense of familiarity, of feeling like they were talking to maybe a grandma that maybe has long since passed, but like that those feelings of love and acceptance are still resonate in that room because of that shared understanding of community. And so I think that whenever I've attended LO events, or even when the LO National Campout, when we had, dozens of people from all over the nation coming together from different cultural backgrounds, but there's this still sense of belonging and love and understanding from each other that we all really like, kind of shared within what, maybe 3 or 4 days, right? And by the end of it, like we felt like we were going off to spread that community in our respective regions. And so I think like that is that sentiment that is really hard to describe, but that you feel forever. And I think that when I think about community, like that's what I remember.
Thank you, Josue. And you just alluded to or referenced the Latino Outdoors National Campout, or Leadership Campout that we sometimes call it. That's essentially our annual retreat for volunteers, for staff, for board members, as basically a 100% remote organization, dispersed, decentralized organization. It's the one time during the year that a relatively large group of our volunteers, staff, and board members are able to get together IRL, in real life, and it's very special. So this is Semillitas Outdoors Week, right? So let's tie this to young kids, to children, to youth. How does access to nature and leadership, a leadership space, particularly in the outdoors, how do you think that supports healthy youth development? Why don't you start us off, Josué, this time?
Yeah. So I was a high school teacher for 4 years, and I've been working in education for, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so. And what I've always said was that kids learn by doing. And so when it comes to supporting our youth development, especially getting them excited about the outdoors, a lot of our programming, I feel that has been successful, especially as it connects with the youth, has been getting them to do things that they maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to do in their apartment or even in their neighborhood, right? Or even at school. And so I think a really fun programming event that we did planting seeds, and you'd be so surprised how natural it is for a kid to just pick up a seed, pick up some soil, and play with them, right, and start planting them. And so I think when we think about creating access to nature and leadership in support of healthy youth development, it's about what activities can we create in nature that will allow kids to have this hands-on approach that in a sense I think also fosters leadership, because I think in that sense it fosters like leading by doing. And I think oftentimes maybe in our different education systems, kids receive a lot of passive learning and a lot of passive activities, which I don't think really creates an opportunity for them to step up or for them to work with other people, talk with other people. So I think when it comes to promoting access to nature and leadership and these spaces for youth, we have to let them be active, let them try by doing, and then see how students or these kids are naturally working with each other to work together.
So you were a teacher. Yeah, I've always felt that the outdoors is probably one of the most powerful,
Hmm.
effective classrooms there is,
Hmm.
right? Learning spaces, and you just spoke to that. Um, and as you were speaking, I was thinking about some words that a friend of Latino Outdoors, CJ Goulding, who is the co-founder and executive director of an organization called Boys in the Wood.
Hmm.
Um, he some words of his. He says that it's not about making the semillitas, the little seeds, the children, the kids, the youth better. It's about enriching the soil around them, right? Um, so you spoke to that as well. Liz, what are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think just, yeah, nature is wonderful for kiddos. It just allows them to like explore with like all of their senses, allow their, just for their curiosity to flow and just be curious about the world, see the world in like different lenses, and be able to appreciate more and take care of it. Um, just being able to give these kiddos access to these spaces also can, increase, their confidence and their self-esteem. I have two things that I wanted to say about that. So I'm going to take credit for this for my 2-year-old.
Go for it.
So my nephew, he was like 1 and a few months old. He was walking, but not so as confident to kind of let go. And ever since he was a baby, I would take him out, we would sit on the grass. And so by the time he was a year old, I would make him just step on it was fall, so on the leaves on the ground. And so I would be like, crunch, 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 crunch. And so he would love it, and he would have fun with it. And so little by little, I was on one side and then my mom was on the other side. And so we were encouraging him to walk on his own while crunching on the leaves, stepping on them. And he was just having so much fun. And then he's just started walking on his own. And so I'm just saying it was, it was me, it was nature. But I think it's because he was having so much fun, he kind of just let go of any fear, and just enjoying himself. And so, yeah. And he's also inspired me to do more Semillita Outdoors events, because he loves nature. We've gone to the conservatory, and every time we've been there multiple times, and till this day, every time we go to a different room, he's like, wow, wow. And it's just so beautiful. And the conservatory has a sensory garden. So, he is just like open to like getting dirty, like hopping on all of these like obstacle courses, and just like going on a hike where he's never like been before. Like he's just exploring, and and I'm like, oh my god, like, and I saw it firsthand, like how happy he was, how he wasn't even thinking twice about like, should I do it, should I not, he was just
Just really
exploring.
confident and emboldened, right?
Yeah.
Well, you should take credit. You taught your nephew how to walk. I don't know about is it your sister's son? Or
Yeah.
I don't know how she's going to feel about that statement, but you take credit for that.
Yes, thank you. I am. Yeah. And then the other one, just my teen nephew and niece is also very like shy. And I think too, with the pandemic, I think that did play a role in a lot of like these kiddos, like, social interactions and like trying new things.
Yeah.
And so for them to be able to try new things in community, with rock climbing, with hiking, meeting new people, I can already see like their increase in their confidence in themselves and wanting to try new things. So it's just a great way. Like nature is a great way for just overall their well-being, being safe, feeling safe, being curious. And, that's just, I think it just plays a huge role in their lives.
Yeah. It's not that I'm biased because I'm, part of the team here at Latino Outdoors, but I really believe that spending time outdoors, whether you're a semillita little kid or an adult like us, no matter what age, if we all did that a little bit more, it's about as close to a cure-all to some of the challenges, a lot of the big challenges that we're, feeling and experiencing in society as there is, as close to a panacea as there is. And you spoke to something really important just now, Liz, which is the social aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, I mentioned how, we're living in more and more siloed, we're living more and more siloed lives, right? Asynchronous lives. And that's just not the case when you get together with people out in the real world, right? Ideally in a, beautiful local or state or national park or on a trail, enjoying the outdoors. And, there's a lot of opportunity to, as a little kid, to learn to socialize, right? So I don't know if you all wanted to like share a little bit more about that. Any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, actually, I kind of want to add on to that and how it ties into that leadership component of the questions you asked. So I was just thinking about one of my favorite parts about going camping is that you're always doing something, right? Either you're preparing for a meal, you're cleaning up after a meal, you're preparing for a hike, you're on the hike, you're resting from the hike, you're getting your tent ready. So like everyone, there's always a role to be played. And when you're camped with a family or just even a group of people, every single person has a role. And regardless of what that role is, it's equally important to that collective group's success of having a good outing or a good camping trip. And so I think when reflecting on leadership and what that kind of symbolizes to our youth is that regardless of what you're doing or what role that you have, a leader is able to understand that every single role in this camp out is important to the success of our enjoyment of the stewardship over that land. And so I think that's what's really exciting for me when I'm thinking about this collective aspect of camping and being outdoors, especially as a young child, is to be able to see that and know that in life things don't really turn out successful unless you plan for it and unless everyone works together collectively towards that plan to ensure that we have a successful outing. Then that's how it's going to happen. And so I think so I think that's to your question, Luis. Like that's what it reminds me of when we're thinking about being outdoors, we're thinking about leadership, and we're thinking about developing our youth.
I have an idea. Let's force our elected officials, no matter what party they're from, to go camping together. How about that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That would be we would solve a lot of problems that way, I think, hopefully.
Yeah. So, just speaking of learning, right? The learning that we can enjoy, not just from the outdoors, but from the little ones, right? they have a lot of lessons to teach us as well. I know that when I go outdoors and I spend time with my sobrinas, my nieces, my sobrinos, nephews outdoors, I'm in awe of just their energy, their spirit out there, and that teaches me a lot. What do we have to learn from little ones outdoors? What comes to mind? And who wants to kick us off?
Yeah, I can go for it. I think, just being able to like slow down and be present and take nature as is. Like, por ejemplo, like if it's raining, sometimes my mind automatically goes like, it's going to be a rough day. But not necessarily, because like rain, like we need rain, right? And it's a beautiful thing. And so, when I see, again, my 2-year-old nephew just like being so happy to just like splash on like water puddles and just living life and enjoying it, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, let me change my perspective on today's day. Today is a good day. Our environment needs this rain. And so I just love the idea of like they're just focusing on what's in front of them and not in their head thinking about what's next, what to do. And so I think I try to remind myself that a lot. I'm like, okay, let's just be present. Recently, I went on it was a community partner day, and we went on a forest bath hike. Mm-hmm. And there was two young girls there, and they were just so present and exploring, and it was just so wonderful to see. And then we had to sit down, and it was like a little wet, and it took me a while to be comfortable with like sitting down and not having to just be a little bit annoyed that I'm gonna wet my jeans. But like they were just like okay about it. They were just like living in a moment, enjoying like this beautiful space. So I think, again, like just being okay with just being present and taking nature as is.
Yeah, absolutely. Your response just now reminds me of so as you both know, every month we do an online check-in with all volunteers, Latino Outdoors volunteers around the country. Just kind of fill out a quick form, right, to let us know that you're okay, that you're here still, and we have a question of the month in that form, right? And this last month this month in April's check-in, the question was. With Semillitas Outdoors coming up, what can we learn from children when it comes to being outdoors? And there was just so many answers that touched on just curiosity, right, and inquisitiveness. And here's one that really encapsulates it: to let your curiosity and imagination direct you. I love that. I love that. But so many of the answers were similar, and that one really captures it. And by the way, for some folks who may not know forest baths, Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, but that kind of the idea of a forest bath is really about immersing yourself, right, in nature and just being mindful of the nature around you. And in a nutshell, I think it stems from the movement to quote unquote prescribe nature. Nature RX, right? For folks as a way of an alternative in some ways. I'm not a doctor, so don't take my advice, but as maybe a supplement to conventional medicine.
It does make a big difference being out in nature, surrounded by trees, and that week, it was a long week for me, but during that time. And luckily, it was a sunny day. At the end, I just felt very refreshed, refilled, like very energized. I was like, okay, I needed this, and so I was very grateful for that opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's move to a different question. I'm really curious. Here we are. We didn't know each other when we were kids, right? We met in the context of Latino Outdoors. But I'm curious. We're talking about kids and the outdoors. I'm curious, and Josue, I'll ask you first. How did you like to spend time, with your friends outdoors when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think there's two questions. I mean, there's two responses to that. One was like during summer, and then one was like during the school year, right? So I think during the school year, a lot of it was playing sports, is playing soccer outside, football in the yard, and riding bikes, and just being active and enjoying that atmosphere. But the ones that I remember most saliently are actually during the summer. I was part of this. It was this nonprofit that took urban youth and brought them to the hill country for like a camping experience for about a week, and that's we were surrounded by other kids who looked like me, and we got to go canoeing and we got to go fishing, and we would go hiking. And I remember that experience being really pertinent because we'd spend the entire day outside, and never once did I want to look at my phone or even check in with my parents. Like my parents, they'd be like, "Hey, are you okay? Like, are you alive? Send a carrier pigeon." But I was just so immersed in the community and in the outdoor space that like there was no reason for me to want to be anywhere aside from just like from those activities. And I remember feeling whenever we could go to bed, you'd have the best sleep because your muscles were just so sore, your mind was so mentally stimulated that you'd wake up and you do it all over again. And so when I think about like the friendships that I made there were just the most intentional because there were no distractions. There was no, okay, after an hour you got to come back inside and get ready for bed. It was like you're just outside for about 10, 12 hours of the day, and you're just learning about people and talking with them, having these honest conversations, free from a lot of the distractions otherwise. So I think that's like those are the memories I remember most saliently.
I think you both are about a good 20, maybe even 25 years younger than I am. And it's very encouraging to hear you describe a childhood that is similar to the childhood that I had growing up in the early 80s, when, according to a lot of people, things were simpler back then. My brothers and I and friends from the block, the neighborhood we lived in, would just go to the schoolyard. They were open. The schoolyards were open to the public after school. That's not as much the case anymore here in California. I don't know about Chicago or Houston, but it's changed a lot. So it is encouraging to hear you describe a childhood sometime after the 80s that is very similar to the one that I experienced in the 80s. Liz, what about you?
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking when I'm like 10 and younger a little bit. So the first thing that comes to mind is just like me spending my summers in Mexico, because that's the place where I had the most freedom. Just growing up in the city. I didn't get to go out as much, and so I did enjoy just like spending time with friends outside in the parks, school parks, and so that was wonderful. That was my highlight. But in general, when I think about that, like I think about just in Mexico, caminando, like walking around El Rancho, like with my cousins and other friends, and getting dirty, just exploring, and hanging on the trees, trying different fruits, and just living, just like taking in all like the sun. And there's this different sense of like, I don't know, it's a different scent. And so I feel like I remember just really being in tune with all of the senses I was taking in. And it was, one of my favorite times.
Yeah, living life to the fullest, right? I also, together with my parents and brothers, took summer trips to Mexico, to Jalisco. And I remember going to the rancho where my dad was born and grew up, and really being fascinated by the goats that really wanted to like rush us. Yeah. So what advice would you give youth that really want to have more real life connections and experiences in today's world, but maybe are finding it challenging to do so because of some of the reasons, right, that we cited earlier. I don't know who would like to start. I'll throw it out to both of you.
Would you like to start, Liz, or you want me to start?
I can start. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can start. I think.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll go first. I think there's two things, right? I think there's accessibility. It's like, what is accessible for that youth, right? For that kid.
Yeah.
And then like what can they do on their own? And so I think in regard to accessibility, oftentimes students, young people are tied to what their parents are doing or what their guardians are doing, because that is their mode of transportation and money and everything, right? And so I would say, if possible, start questioning and asking questions to your parents, your guardians. How can we get outside more? Like, what do you like doing that's outside? And so it's trying to kind of pick at the interest of maybe your parent to see if that's something they'd be willing to do with you, because at that point that opens up your world to going to a park, going to even going to the Home Depot to buy some gardening equipment, to some plants, to go start
Gotta
planting
plug the gardening, right?
Yeah, I gotta plug the gardening there because it is so accessible, right? And so, or even something like birding, right? Like, hey, have you ever asking your parents, have you ever wonder what kind of birds are around here? And so it's trying to get more people involved so that you're not doing it alone. Because anytime you're doing something with someone else, it's a lot easier to get into. You have more resources, you have more support, and there's kind of like an accountability partner there too, because you're enjoying to do it together. And then I would say if you don't have that access right away, or that easy access, then thinking about what do you have in your power to go out and question about nature, because I think there's a lot you can learn from just asking, like, why are these birds migrating around this time period, or what does this what is the name of this plant? I know you were mentioning that, Luis, earlier. Even downloading an app like Seek or iNaturalist and start looking, exploring the world around you and seeing, just being curious and learning more about it. And I think from that foundation, and once you start learning more about it, you start wondering, how can I implement this more into my daily life? So I think that foundation, it starts with knowledge. And so if you continue to seek that knowledge around you, then that'll lead you to start wanting to get more active and to do something with that knowledge, and then maybe find community with that. And I guess the third thing, actually, I'd be remiss to say, find your Latino Outdoors local chapter and see what activities you can get involved
Speaking
with.
of plugs.
Yeah, speaking of plugs, because no, truly, we offer. I mean, all of our activities are free, and we're open to. I've worked with a 2-month-old planting some seeds, or all the way up to I think we had like a 70-something-year-old at one of our events who was just eager to hang out with us. And so, regardless of what your age is, go out there, find your Latino Outdoors community, and see how you can get involved, because I know they'll be happy to have you.
Absolutely. And I'll just fill in there. Anybody who's looking for their Latino Outdoors community, comunidad, we're located in over 30 locations around the country. If you just go to our website, latinooutdoors.org, and then you find in the top menus there are our locations map. Click on there, and we do a great job of keeping that updated. And you can find all the contact info, social media. Social media is what our chapters, our different regional teams use a lot to announce upcoming events and outings. But that's all there under our locations, and a lot more information on that website. You mentioned birding. It's not just for retirees anymore. It's trending with younger people, right? And I love that you touched on the intergenerational potential for outdoor engagement, doing it with your parents, your family, your abuelas, your abuelos. That can make the experience that much more impactful for everyone. Liz, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think saying yes to opportunities. If there's any like extracurricular activities at their school or after school, to say yes to that. I just kind of, when I think about myself and kind of like how I started, again, like being first generation, being a woman, like my mom was very overprotective. And so there was a lot of limitations and things that I could do. But I said yes to signing up for After School Matters. And so After School Matters provides variety of programs for youth where I got paid. I built a bike. They helped
Wow.
me with public speaking skills, and with the park districts, I got a job where I taught bike safety throughout park districts, and I was doing that throughout my throughout college, at the beginning of college, and so I was on my bike throughout the city, and that's kind of where I became a little bit more independent and started seeing the world, and encouraged me to, just, think outside the box and try new things. And so I'm very grateful that I said yes to that. And even now, just like I also work with youth, and so I'm like, sign up for After School Matters. And and in relation to also Latino Outdoors, we are partnering with Chicago ICO, and so that's Sierra Club's chapter, where they work with youth, and they take them out. And so so we have done one outing before, and then we're going to do one actually this Friday. We're going to take them rock climbing. And when we went to the Mortem Arboretum for illumination nights, this was in the winter time, so all the trees were illuminated with lights, and this was like in the suburb, and it was just so wonderful to see them being able to just like enjoy. And these were teenagers, and we're like, whoa, this is so cool. And it was a cold night, but none of them were complaining about the cold weather. I was a little bit worried. I was like, oh, like it's so cold tonight. But they were just having such a wonderful time. And so, and yeah, I'm just really grateful that we were, able to partner with them. And then there's these other also programs too, right, where they focus on youth and taking them outdoors. And so if there is an opportunity somewhere, saying yes to that and trying something new.
I saw the images from that outing, that holiday outing to the Mortem Arboretum, and the kids were beaming with smiles. I mean, they loved it. I've noticed that with the outings that you organize with Latino Outdoors, not all of them, but a lot of them, you do a lot of targeted outreach. Like you partner with a particular, maybe a youth serving organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you want to shout out a couple of those. I know that you've done like a bike mechanic 101 before. So anyway, did you want to shout out some of your partners?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. With Chicago ICO, it's been great collaborating with them, and with Bikes and Roses.
Bikes and Roses. I love that name.
Yes, we've done a couple of workshops with them, and it's just so great to see like the youth just being leaders and knowing all these like mechanical stuff and taking the lead. And right now they're actually working with another like program. They're gonna try doing like they're doing track cycling. I've never done that before, and I'm curious, and I'm encouraging my nephew and my niece who are teenagers to do it too. And so right now they're actually today on Mondays, they do like trainings. And yes, so shout out to Bikes and Roses, to Blackstone Bikes, another youth centered bike workshop, bike shop, and to Salud Chicago. We've done a lot of outside events with them that also focus on with like mental health and connect mental health and the outdoors together. I hope I'm not missing anybody.
It's okay. It's not the Oscars. You don't have to name everybody.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. But it truly makes a big difference being able to collaborate with other organizations. I think it's part of that, building that community. So I appreciate everyone who collaborate with us.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll just, kind of riff or dovetail on what you've mentioned, just to quickly say that Latino Outdoors teams around the country are known for their collaborations, your collaborations with so many organizations. In any given year, we collaborate collectively, right? Nationally, Latino Outdoors with hundreds of organizations around the country. So we're connecting in real life, not just with individuals and people and familias, but other organizations as well, outdoors. Josué?
Any shout outs you want me to
Yeah,
provide? Is that
give
what you're
a
asking?
couple
Yeah.
shout outs. Yeah.
I mean, I would say the Texas Family Outdoors. So we did a Houston camp out actually. So we had almost maybe a total of 60 individuals at a camp out over in Huntsville State Park, and all the gear, all the training was provided by Texas Outdoor Family, which is like a program with the our Texas Outdoor State Parks.
Yeah.
And so I would say, big shout out to them, but also big shout out to all the state parks who are providing education and accessibility to to different LO chapters and members of our community. I think it's really important to be able to have the resources, both educational, because they actually stayed the whole weekend, and like the Rangers, they taught with us, which was incredible. Both for on safety, fire making, how to cook using the Dutch oven, all these things that I think otherwise would have been a lot of work for the LO leaders, volunteers to kind of put on themselves. The Texas State Park worked with us to provide that education. So I would say huge shout out to just all the Rangers out there who are leading with their hearts and spending weekends already after a long work week with weekends with us as well to ensure that we're able to meet our mission and reach our community is extremely important. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned Texas Outdoor Family here in California. California State Parks has a similar program called Fam Camp. It operates similarly, but yeah, different state parks agencies around the country, I think, offer these programs that make things like camping, much more accessible to families, that maybe wouldn't be able to afford the gear, right?
Yep.
So wonderful. Liz, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I'm really looking forward to our upcoming Semillitas event with City Kids Outdoors. We haven't collaborated with them in the past, but I'm excited. They really focus on families out in the outdoors.
When is that happening?
On Saturday. So
this Saturday, the 26th.
Yes. So we're
to kick off Semillitas Outdoors Week. Okay, great.
Yeah.
This is the 28th, but we're really recording it before, which is fine. So
you're right. Thank you for that. Yes. So, yes. So we're gonna have a family. We had a family hike outdoors, and someone.
That's okay. That's okay.
I mentioned Blackstone Bikes, and we're really grateful to be able to partner also with the Garfield Park Conservatory and the Morning Arboretum. And again, when I first introduced the Semillitas Outdoors to our partners, right away they said yes. Yes. They did not hesitate. They were like, when do you want to do more youth events? So I really do appreciate that. And it's been really great to see also how they view youth events and how they view also just the beauty of how important it is to have access and opportunities for you to explore nature along with family members and community.
I completely, what you just said about your partners really taking to Semillitas Outdoors resonates with me. Again, this is the 4th annual edition of Semillitas Outdoors here at Latino Outdoors. And I think part of the reason it resonates with our partners and collaborators is because they inherently understand, that sort of the greater importance of it, right? We've been talking about it. We've been alluding to it throughout this conversation. And so as we begin to wrap up, I would like to ask you, thinking about the importance, right, of kinship and connection in real life and building community, for so many reasons, especially right now, during these times that we're all living in. How do you build community? How do you build community in your personal life? We've talked about it in the context of Latino Outdoors a bit, if you want to expand on that as well. But how do you build community? And however you'd like to answer that is okay. I see, Liz, you want to dive right in, huh?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think it's like showing up and being your authentic self. being open and honest. You know, it's definitely, you know, like we definitely have to work together, right? So everyone's kind of just working together. So being able to have that opportunity to be myself and say, like, this is me showing up, and also taking accountability for myself and my actions and how I show up, right? And so that's where communication plays a big role of like, okay, this is, you know, like what I can do, where my capacity. And so I think that also creates just like a sense of safety of like people know what to expect from me, and so, and vice versa. And kind of going back again, I think just showing up and just being myself. And yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the outdoors, we talked about it earlier, is this incredible space for learning, right? And I think part of the reason it is because it's not I don't know if the word is hermetic, or it's not as curated as like when we're on the screen, right? Or when we're streaming the exact show that we want to, you know, watch at the exact time that we want to watch it. Like anything can happen when you're out there in the world, right? Unexpectedness, right? And all of that. I read an article, I think it was in Time magazine not too long ago, about the importance of what was the term they used? Why intentional discomfort is good for us, right? Intentional discomfort. And, you know, these days, I think intentional discomfort in general can be sorely lacking if everything is just, you know, like we can order stuff online, right? The kids are on the iPads, or, you know, on the screens. Everything is so curated. But when you're out at a park, when you're outdoors, you know, you slip, you trip, you fall, you get up, you get hungry, you know, all sorts of things happen. You experience so many things, and that builds resilience. And if you do that together with other people, right, it also builds empathy and understanding between people. You start to build, you strengthen both bonds, but you also start to build bridges between people. So, Josué, how do you build community?
Now, how am I supposed to follow up after that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Luis? You took the words out of my mouth. I swear we're the same people sometimes. No, I mean, what I was just gonna say is, I mean, to your point, it's courage. I think there are a lot of ways that we can psych ourselves out of doing something like attending an event, as Liz mentioned, like showing up. And so I think sometimes we can tell ourselves, well, you know, it's raining, or oh, it's, you know, it's a little bit too hot outside, or oh, you know, I gotta go do this afterwards, so it doesn't make sense. But the most important thing is that you ideally get out of your comfort zone. You show up, and none of us are perfect, right? Nature is not perfect. Nature is unruly, it's wild, it adapts. And so all we ask is that you kind of take on that same embodiment, and be yourself, and be vulnerable. And I promise you, the people who, especially with Latino Outdoors, the people you will meet will welcome you, and love on you, and encourage you and nurture you. And even if it isn't with Latino Outdoors, find your community who accept you for who you are, who embrace you, and foster this sense of belonging, and nature loving in you. And if you did that, then you know you already won. So
There you go. You
yeah.
followed me just fine, Josué. So again, just first of all, I want to thank you both, and want to give you the opportunity for any last minute thoughts or plugs. Again, we're celebrating Semillitas Outdoors week here at Latino Outdoors from, I was going to say September. I don't know why I'm jumping ahead so much. April 26th through May 4th. Folks, we'll be seeing this on Monday, April 28th. But yeah, any plugs, anything you'd like to share? Liz? You already mentioned the outing that you had 2 days ago, which is, I'm sure it went well.
Yes. I'm looking forward to our upcoming one that's at the Garfield Park Conservatory for
Fantastic.
toddlers. So we're gonna go in a little bit earlier than the general admission time. So, and read a book and in front of one of my favorite rooms, the friend room, which is beautiful. We've never had an event that's specifically focused for toddlers. So I'm very excited about that. And our upcoming Mortem Arboretum family hike, where it's a special day because that's one of the days where dogs can also go in. And so all of our families are welcome to go in for free and bring their pets. And so I'm excited about that. And thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. It's been great talking about youth. And I'm just, Semillitas Outdoors is one of my favorite times of the year. And so
we're happy to have you here for it. And folks, you can follow Latino Outdoors in Chicago on Instagram. I believe that's where you're most active, right? Instagram. And then you all have an Eventbrite as well. If you sign up for their LO Chicago's Eventbrite or LO Chicago's Eventbrite, you can receive alerts for upcoming outings and events. And again, just go to our website, latinooutdoors.org, search around there, look for our map of locations, and you'll see it there. Same goes for Houston. Any parting thoughts, plugs, Josué?
Yeah, I would say in the spirit of Semillitas, if you have a seed, if you have a dream, plant it, sow it, tend to it, create the conditions for life. So make sure it has sun and water, and make sure the soil is, doesn't have any bugs you don't want in there, right? Take whatever metaphor as you will. But you will reap what you sow. And so continue following your dreams, and make sure you create the conditions for life that you want to succeed.
Beautifully put. I have nothing to add beyond that. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Josué, for being a part of the LO Comunidad and for celebrating the 4th annual Semillitas Outdoors Week. And thank you all for tuning in. Stay connected with us, and we look forward to connecting with everyone in real life outdoors.